I was standing in my kitchen, barefoot on cold tile, when the phone rang and something in my chest told me not to answer it. The pot on the stove was humming low, collard greens taking their sweet time, the way my mama taught me. I had just wiped my hands on my apron when that ring cut through the room, sharp, insistent, like bad news don't knock first. I let it ring twice, 3 times, then I picked up. "Miss Evelyn Carter?" a man asked. His voice was calm. Too calm, the kind of calm that usually means somebody else already made a decision about your life. "Yes, this is she," I said, leaning against the counter. "I'm calling to confirm the sale of the duplex on Willow Park Drive. We just need your final approval before closing. Your nephew already agreed to the price." My knees went weak. The room didn't spin. It didn't need to. Everything just stopped. "I'm sorry," I said slowly. "The sale of what?" There was a pause on the line, the kind people take when they think you're confused, or old, or both. "The duplex that belonged to your late husband," he said. "According to the paperwork, you authorized your nephew to act on your behalf." I looked down at my hands. They were still holding the wooden spoon. That duplex wasn't just a building, it was my husband's last promise to me. Before I could stop myself, my voice came out smaller than I meant it to. "Sir, I didn't sell anything." Another pause, longer this time. "I have documents here with your signature, ma'am, notarized. Everything looks official." I felt something crack open inside my chest. Not loud, not dramatic, just a quiet split like wood drying too fast. My husband, Raymond, used to say that place was our cushion. "Life gets funny when you get older, Eve," he'd tell me. "I need to know you'll be okay even if I ain't here." Raymond worked city sanitation for 38 years. Rain, heat, busted trucks, double shifts. That duplex came from overtime and skipped vacations, from reused envelopes and lunches wrapped in foil, from 2 people believing slow and steady still meant something. When he passed, I promised him I'd protect it. I swallowed hard. What price did he agree to? The number the man gave me felt like an insult, not just low, disrespectful, like selling a lifetime for spare change. "And who's the buyer?" I asked. He hesitated. "An investment group, cash deal." "Quick, close." Cash, quick. My stomach dropped. Images flashed through my mind without asking permission. My nephew Marcus complaining about money, about his girlfriend wanting more, about everybody else living better than him. The way he'd started asking questions about the duplex last year, real casual, too casual. I pressed my palm flat against the counter. "Please stop everything," I said. My voice surprised me. It was steady now. "I did not approve this sale. I did not sign anything, and I will be coming to see those documents myself." "Yes, ma'am," he replied, suddenly careful. "I'll email you the details." When the call ended, the kitchen felt too quiet. The greens boiled over. I didn't move. Because somewhere between that phone call and the smell of burnt garlic, I realized something ugly had been done in my name, and the person who did it knew exactly how much it would hurt. And I hadn't even confronted them yet. I stood there a long time after the call ended, listening to the greens hiss like they were mad at me too. I turned the stove off, slid the pot to the back burner, and sat down at the little kitchen table that had held this family together through bills, birthdays, and bad news. My heart wasn't racing. That scared me more than if it had been. I'd lived long enough to know when calm shows up uninvited, it's usually because something heavy is about to land. Raymond's picture hung by the window. Him in that old brown jacket, smiling like he knew something the rest of us didn't. "Well," I whispered, looking at him, "seems like they think I'm done paying attention." I didn't cry, not yet. Instead, I did what older women do when something don't sit right. I checked my things. The bedroom drawer opened with its familiar creak. Inside was my green folder, the one I'd kept since Raymond was alive: deeds, insurance. Birth certificates, death certificates, the paper trail of a whole life. At first glance, everything looked normal, too normal. I picked the folder up and felt it. Lighter, not by much, but enough. Pages that had always been stacked neat were just a little off, corners not lining up the way I remembered. Somebody had been in here, careless, too, rushed. My mouth went dry. I sat on the edge of the bed, folder in my lap, and tried to slow my breathing. I flipped through the pages one by one. The original deed was still there. Raymond's name, my name, clean, clear, no power of attorney, no sale agreement. "No permission? So how you sign me?" I muttered, anger finally tapping me on the shoulder. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, a text. "Marcus, Hey Auntie Eve read just checking in, you okay? I stared at the screen until the words blurred. That heart emoji felt loud. Marcus had come to live with us when he was 15 after his mama moved down south chasing a man who didn't last 6 months. I helped raise him, paid for school clothes, let him use Raymond's truck. Defended him when folks said he was lazy or careless. I loved him, still did, which made this hurt different. I didn't respond, not yet. I needed facts before feelings. The next morning I dressed like I was going somewhere important. Not fancy, just intentional, pressed slacks, clean shoes, earrings Raymond liked. I wanted to look like a woman people don't talk over. The real estate office was all glass and light, smelling like coffee and confidence. A young woman behind the desk smiled like she practiced it in a mirror. I'm here about a property on Willow Park Drive, I said, sold without my consent. Her smile slipped. That's when I knew I wasn't crazy. They took me to a conference room and pulled the documents up on a screen. My name was there, my address, even my birthday, and then my signature. Only it wasn't mine, close but wrong. The curve was off, too stiff. Like somebody had copied it slow, afraid to mess up. I leaned back in the chair. That, I said quietly, is not my hand. The manager nodded once, jaw tight. We suspected something wasn't right. Who brought this to you? I asked. He hesitated, then said the name. And just like that, the story got deeper and uglier. Hearing Marcus's name out loud in that quiet conference room felt like someone turning the lights off and on too fast. I didn't gasp, didn't shout. I just nodded slow, like my body needed a second to catch up with my mind. How long? I asked. The manager glanced at the screen. He first contacted us 6 weeks ago, said you wanted to sell quietly, no stress. No back and forth. Quietly, no stress. I almost laughed. He told us you weren't feeling well, the manager continued, careful now. Said paperwork overwhelmed you, that he was helping family. I pressed my lips together. That phrase had been doing damage for generations. They printed everything for me, the forged authorization, emails, dates, times, every lie neatly time-stamped. I slid the papers into my bag like they weighed 100 pounds. Nothing has closed, the manager said quickly. The title company froze it once doubts came up. No money has exchanged hands yet. I thanked him because my mama raised me right, then walked out into the parking lot where the sun felt too bright for what I'd just learned. I sat in my car a long time before turning the key. I didn't drive home right away. Instead, I went to Willow Park Drive. The duplex stood just like always, 2 stories, brown brick, a little tired but solid. Raymond had fixed that place with his own hands, painted it twice. Replaced the steps when they creaked too loud. I sat across the street and watched it like it might speak. You see this? I whispered like Raymond was riding shotgun. Your nephew done lost his mind. Anger finally rose, but it wasn't loud. It was heavy, the kind that sinks instead of explodes. When I got home, I made tea and sat at the table as the sky darkened. That's when the knocking started. Soft, familiar, I already knew who it was. Marcus stood on my porch smiling like nothing in the world was wrong, same dimple, same hopeful eyes. He held up a bakery box. Thought I'd surprise you, he said. You didn't answer my text. I looked at him for a long second, really looked. He seemed tired, thinner, nervous under that smile. Come in, I said. He followed me to the table, talking too much, about work, about traffic, about nothing. I set the box aside unopened and pulled the documents from my bag. The smile left his face the second he saw them. Silence dropped between us like a curtain. Start talking, I said. He opened his mouth, closed it. Ran a hand over his face. I was gonna fix it, he whispered. Fix what? I asked. The lie or the fact you signed my name? His shoulders slumped. They needed a down payment back, he said. I just needed time, that word again. I folded my hands. Marcus, you didn't just lie to strangers, you stepped into my marriage, you touched something your uncle trusted me with. Tears filled his eyes, but I didn't move to comfort him. Because some lessons don't come wrapped in hugs, and this one was just getting started. Marcus stared at the floor like it might open up and save him. I wasn't trying to hurt you, he said finally. I swear. It just got out of hand. Everything does, I replied, calm as still water, once you start lying. He sat down heavy in the chair across from me, elbows on his knees, hands shaking. I noticed then how worn he looked. Not just tired, pressed, like life had been leaning on him hard and he hadn't leaned back. Tell it from the beginning, I said. Slow, no skipping. He nodded, wiped his face, and started talking. It began with money, of course it did. His job wasn't paying what he hoped. His girlfriend wanted more space, nicer things, trips she saw online. He said it felt like he was always behind, like everybody else got a head start he missed. And then I thought about the duplex, he said. I remembered how Uncle Ray used to say it was for family. My jaw tightened, but I let him continue. I figured you don't even go over there much. I thought if I sold it, helped myself get stable, I could pay you back later before you ever noticed. Before I ever noticed, I leaned back in my chair. You thought I wouldn't notice a whole building missing, he winced. I practiced your signature, he admitted, just on scrap paper at first. I knew it wasn't right, but the notary didn't question it. Nobody did. That part hurt more than I expected, not the practice, but the ease. How simple it had been for the world to believe I was absent from my own life. And the money, I asked. He hesitated. Some of it's gone, he said quietly. How much? I pressed. He named the number. It sat between us like broken glass. I closed my eyes for a moment, not to pray, just to breathe. That money came from overtime, I said. From nights your uncle came home smelling like trash and sweat and pride. Do you understand that? He nodded, tears dripping off his chin. I messed up, he whispered. I know I did, I just didn't know how to stop once it started. I stood up then, walked to the sink and rinsed my cup. I needed movement. Stillness would have turned sharp. When I turned back to him, my voice was steady. This is what's going to happen, I said. The sale stays frozen permanently. That duplex is not for sale, not now. Not ever without me standing there, he nodded fast. You will pay back every dollar that was taken, I continued. Not to me, to whoever's owed. You'll work extra shifts, you'll be tired, that's part of the lesson. He swallowed hard. And, I added, you will never sign my name again on anything because next time I won't protect you from what comes after. He looked up at me then, really looked. Yes, ma'am, he said. The room went quiet again. Outside, the streetlight flickered on, and somewhere in that silence, something between us cracked, not completely, but enough to let the truth in. And truth, once it shows up, don't leave quietly. Marcus left not long after that. No arguing, no begging, just a quiet nod and the sound of the front door closing softer than usual, like he didn't trust himself to touch it too hard. When the house settled again, I realized how tired I was. Not sleepy tired, soul tired. I washed the dishes slow, listening to the water run, letting the rhythm calm me down. Raymond used to say I cleaned when my heart needed order. He was right. The sink shined when I was done, but my chest still felt crowded. That night I didn't sleep much. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my name written wrong, stiff, careless, like somebody else wearing my face. Around 3 in the morning, I got up and sat in the living room with the lamp on low. Raymond's chair sat empty, the way it had for years now. I rested my hand on the arm of it just for a second. You always said family would test me, I whispered. Guess you knew something I didn't. The next few days moved slow, heavy. I met with a lawyer, a woman about my age, sharp eyes, soft voice. She didn't talk down to me, didn't rush. She explained everything clear and plain. The sale was officially blocked, the forged documents flagged, my ownership secured tighter than before. You did the right thing, she told me. I nodded, but right didn't always feel good. Marcus started calling more after that, short calls, careful ones. He talked about picking up extra shifts, about his hands hurting, about how quiet his apartment felt now that his girlfriend was staying with friends. I listened more than I spoke. Weeks passed. One afternoon, I drove back to the duplex. The tenant waved at me from the steps, same as always. Inside, the place smelled like old paint and sunlight. I walked room to room, slow, touching walls, window frames. The banister Raymond fixed himself. I kept it, I said out loud. Just like I promised. Standing there, I understood something important. This wasn't just about money, or betrayal, or even Marcus. It was about boundaries, about knowing when love needs to stand firm instead of soft. When I got home, there was a message on my phone from Marcus. Auntie Eve, I know things ain't the same, but thank you for not giving up on me. I sat with that message for a long time before replying. I didn't give up, I typed. I just stopped carrying what wasn't mine. Outside, the sun dipped low, painting the sky orange and purple. The day felt unfinished somehow, like a chapter closing, but not the story, because consequences don't arrive all at once. They come in waves, and the next one was already on its way. The next wave came quiet, too quiet. It showed up as a letter slipped under my door one Tuesday morning, white envelope, no return address. My name typed clean across the front like whoever sent it wanted to look official without being seen. I stood there in my robe, mail in one hand, coffee in the other, already knowing this wasn't a church flyer or a bill. Inside was a notice. The investment group, the one Marcus had dealt with, they wanted their money back, all of it. And they wanted it fast. I sat down hard at the table and read it twice, then a third time. They weren't threatening me directly, not yet, but they were asking questions about timelines, about responsibility, about whether I'd be willing to assist in resolution. Assist, that word again, dressed up and dangerous. I called the lawyer right away. She listened, calm as ever, then said, "This is pressure, not power. Don't answer anything without me." I hung up and stared out the window, watching a neighbor's grandkids race bikes up and down the sidewalk. Their laughter floated in like a reminder of how simple things used to be. By that afternoon, Marcus showed up again. He looked different this time, not desperate, focused, determined in a way I hadn't seen before. "They contacted you, didn't they?" he asked. "Yes," I said, "and they're not my problem." He nodded. "I know, and I'm not letting them make it yours." He told me he'd taken a second job, warehouse nights, early mornings, no weekends. He laid it out like a plan, not a plea. "I'll pay it back," he said, "all of it. Even if it takes years." I studied his face. The boy was gone, the man was tired but present. "Good," I said, "because this is what accountability looks like." He stayed for dinner that night, nothing fancy, just beans and rice. We ate mostly in silence, but it wasn't awkward, just honest. Before he left, he paused at the door. "I know I broke something," he said. "I don't expect it to heal quick." I nodded. "Some cracks don't disappear," I said. "They just remind you where to step carefully." After he left, I washed the dishes and thought about that letter again, about how close I'd come to losing something Raymond and I built together, about how easy it is for people to decide older women don't need protecting anymore. That night, I locked the folder away in a safe, not because I was scared, but because I was done being assumed. And somewhere deep down, I knew the hardest part wasn't stopping the sale. It was learning how to live after trust gets rearranged. And that lesson was still unfolding. Trust don't shatter loud, it shifts. That's what I learned in the weeks that followed. Nothing dramatic happened, no raised voices, no police cars, just small changes that settled into my days like new furniture, noticeable, unavoidable. Marcus paid the first installment back to the investment group sooner than I expected. Not much, but honest. He brought me the receipt like a report card. "I want you to see it," he said. "I'm not hiding anymore." I nodded and handed it back. "Good." He started calling before coming over instead of just showing up. He asked before borrowing things. He listened more, talked less. It was strange, watching someone relearn how to stand right with you. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching dusk stretch itself thin, he asked, "You still mad at me?" I thought about it. "I'm not mad," I said. "I'm awake." He winced at that, but he didn't argue. A month later, something else surfaced. A neighbor from Willow Park Drive called me. Sweet woman, lived next door to the duplex. She said, "Evelyn, I didn't want to gossip, but I think you should know there was a man asking about the place. Said he might be buying it soon." My chest tightened. I thanked her, hung up, and called my lawyer immediately. She made a few calls of her own. Turns out the investment group hadn't fully let go. Deals like that don't like to fail quietly. They were fishing, hoping pressure might wear me down, but pressure only works when you're unsure. And I wasn't. The lawyer sent a formal notice. Clear, firm, final. After that, the calls stopped. One afternoon, I went back to the duplex again. This time, I brought a small plant with me, set it by the front window, something alive, growing. Not for the tenant, just for me. Standing there, I realized something else too. I wasn't guarding the place out of fear anymore. I was choosing it. That night, Marcus called and said he'd ended things officially with his girlfriend. Not angry. Just done. She liked what money did for her, he said quietly. Not what it did to me. I didn't say "I told you so." Life had already handled that. After we hung up, I sat alone in the quiet house and felt something unfamiliar settle in. Not peace, clarity, and clarity, I was learning, changes what you're willing to tolerate, including from the people you love most. And that understanding was about to ask something from me I hadn't expected. The thing about clarity is, it don't rush you. It waits. It showed up for me one Sunday morning while I was folding laundry, sunlight pouring through the window like it had nowhere else to be. I caught myself humming, real soft, an old tune Raymond used to like. And for the first time in a long while, the sound didn't make my chest ache. That's when I realized I'd stopped bracing myself. Not for Marcus, not for bad news, not for the phone to ring and take something else from me. That afternoon, Marcus came by with a small envelope. He didn't sit down right away, just stood there by the door, nervous like a child again. "I brought you something," he said. Inside the envelope was a handwritten letter, not a text. Not a typed apology, ink on paper, crooked in places. He wrote about the night he practiced my signature and how sick it made him feel. About how he'd convinced himself that loving someone meant keeping them happy at any cost, even if that cost was his integrity. About how losing his girlfriend hurt, but not as much as realizing he'd almost lost himself. And then this line, "I don't want to be the kind of man who takes from the women who raised him." That's where my eyes burned. "I'm not asking you to trust me yet," he said, voice low. "I just wanted you to know I see it now." I folded the letter slow and placed it back in the envelope. "Seeing is the start," I said. "Staying changed is the work," he nodded. "I'm working." After he left, I put the letter in the safe with the deed, not because it needed protecting, but because it mattered. Weeks later, the tenant at the duplex gave notice. She'd gotten a job out of state. For the first time since Raymond passed, the place was empty. I walked through it alone one evening, keys heavy in my hand. The rooms echoed, not lonely, just open. I sat on the floor of the living room and let myself remember everything. The sacrifices, the promises, the mistake I almost paid for, and then I made a decision, not out of fear, not out of anger, out of ownership. I wasn't just keeping the duplex anymore, I was reclaiming my role, and when Marcus called later that night asking how I was, I told him the truth. "I'm making plans," I said. "What kind?" he asked. I smiled into the phone. "The kind that don't ask permission." I went back to the duplex one last time before making any changes. The air inside was still, honest, the kind of quiet that doesn't rush you to fill it. I opened all the windows and let the breeze move through rooms that had held so much waiting. Waiting for rent checks, waiting for emergencies, waiting for a future that might never ask to be used. I realized then I'd been living in pause for years, not grieving, not healing, just holding. I sat on the floor with my back against the wall. Raymond once patched himself and spoke out loud because silence deserved a voice. "You built this for me," I said, "but you didn't build it to trap me." And just like that, the weight lifted. I didn't sell the duplex. I didn't give it to Marcus. I didn't turn it into a battle trophy. I refinanced it on my terms. Lightly, carefully, enough to fix the roof, update the wiring, and set aside a cushion that meant I could breathe without counting pennies. The rest stayed untouched. Legacy doesn't mean freezing something in time. It means letting it continue without being abused. Marcus helped with the repairs on weekends. No shortcuts, no asking for favors, just work, quiet work. The kind that rebuilds more than walls. We didn't talk about forgiveness. We didn't need to. One evening as we locked up, he handed me the keys instead of pocketing them like he used to. "They're yours," he said. I nodded. "I know." That was enough. These days, the duplex stands steady. So do I. The phone still rings, life still asks questions, but nothing feels like it's slipping past me anymore. And if there's a lesson in all this, one worth carrying forward, it's this: love doesn't mean letting people right over you. Family doesn't mean access without respect. And age doesn't make you invisible, it makes you precise. I kept what mattered, I let go of what didn't. And for the first time in a long time, the silence in my house feels earned. If this story made you pause for even a second, if it reminded you of something you've protected quietly without applause, then don't scroll just yet. Tell me in the comments, have you ever had to stand your ground against someone you loved? And if you believe stories like this deserve to be heard, slow, honest, and real, tap like, subscribe, and stay with this channel. Because some stories don't shout, they wait for the right ears.